In 1587, an English ship anchored off the coast of an unfamiliar continent. Over 100 people, including entire families with young children, stepped ashore to build a new life in an untamed wilderness. But a fledgling colony cannot survive on raw dirt and hope. They needed heavy equipment and steady supplies to last the first few critical winters. So their leader, John White, sailed back across the Atlantic to secure them. He promised a quick return. Instead, massive naval storms and a sudden brutal war with Spain trapped White in Europe for 3 long years. For those 3 years, the settlers were perfectly isolated from the rest of humanity, forced into total self-reliance in a landscape they did not understand. When White made it back to the coast, he was terrified of what he might find. He expected the usual grim realities of early colonization: rampant disease, mass starvation, or perhaps a ruined, collapsed settlement. Instead, he found a complete vacuum. The settlement was perfectly empty. Not a single living soul was there to greet him. Over 100 people do not simply evaporate into thin air. The total, inexplicable absence of the settlers shifts the narrative away from standard historical hardship, leaving us with America's oldest missing persons cold case. To understand what happened, we must treat the site as a forensic scene. We start not with what remains, but with what was taken. First, we can rule out an attack or a massacre. There were no bodies left behind, no blood in the dirt, no scattered weapons or signs of a desperate struggle. Even the housing structures were an anomaly. They weren't burned to the ground or smashed by a storm. They had been methodically and carefully dismantled. Furthermore, the settlement's heavy, highly valuable tools were completely gone. If a panicked mob had fled into the woods to escape an ambush, they would have dropped heavy equipment. Instead, they packed it up.
The physical evidence directly contradicts the idea of a disaster. The lack of debris proves that this was a highly organized, deliberate evacuation. Before they packed up their entire lives and left, the evacuees left exactly one intentional message behind for White to find. Deeply carved into a wooden post, they left a single word: CROATOAN. This historical map of the region helps explain the message. CROATOAN was the name of a neighboring indigenous tribe and the specific island they inhabited. Historians deduce that, facing starvation, the colonists executed a planned relocation southward, aiming to merge with the CROATOAN tribe. This drawing of a nearby CROATOAN village shows the reality of indigenous life in the region. It highlights a highly structured agricultural layout with permanent housing. For a starving European colony, integrating with an established, sustainable civilization was their best chance at staying alive. But here is the paradox. Despite a clear name and a specific location left behind, the path ends at the edge of the settlement. From that point on, the record is blank. We have centuries of modern technology and relentless archaeological digging at our disposal, but researchers are still empty-handed. To this day, absolutely no conclusive proof has ever been found to confirm the integration theory. No secondary settlement, no definitive European artifacts mixed with indigenous ones, and no clear DNA links. The enduring mystery of Roanoke doesn't require ghosts, monsters, or supernatural myths to be unsettling. The human brain relies on closure. An aggressively chaotic, destroyed room makes sense. It tells a story with a defined ending. A perfectly silent, empty room leaves an open loop, forcing the mind to frantically fill in the blank. The enduring horror of Roanoke is the reality that an entire community can simply vanish from the record, leaving history with nothing but an empty space and an unanswered question.